I'm 23 years old. I'm an artist, I'm an activist, campaigner, and I also speak on public health globally. So I was 11 years old, and it was here in the UK because I wasn't born here. I was born in Congo, so I found out when I moved here in the UK. So it started with when I was 10 years old. Before I turned 11, when I was 10 years old, my mother would give me medications like every morning before I went to school. I didn't know what it was for. I think she just said it was like vitamins. So at that time I was in year 6. And then one day when I started secondary school, one day we went to the hospital, and I just remember that my mother kind of was left behind. Then the nurse took me in, and she started explaining to me about HIV, what it does to the body, and AIDS, and all of that. And then she paused, and that's when I asked her, so does that mean that I have it? And she said, yes. It only made me feel sad, like I always say when I do my interviews. It made me feel sad because of the stigma, because of discrimination, because of what I know of HIV. Then again, it's like if someone told you have cancer, you feel sad, but only because it's a sickness. But with HIV, it's slightly different. People perceive it differently compared to other illnesses. So I knew that it was something that was huge, just based on what I know from the Congolese community, from the African community, based on what people say about it. So to me, it was like, I thought, you have AIDS. That's basically what I thought in my mind. And I didn't know the difference either, so I was very young.
Okay, so you were able to grasp that whole entire concept at such a young age.
Yeah, based on the films I've seen. In the films, as we know, if you watch Congolese, we call it théâtre, most of the time people would say the person has AIDS, or we say sida in French, the person has sida. And that really is associated with death. So to me, it was like you have AIDS and you're going to die, and that's literally what the perception is when it comes to HIV. In terms of growth, like childhood or adulthood or youth, I would say it was difficult because you know that your friends don't know anything about HIV. And you're also aware that when you do disclose your status, or if you tell someone about that you're HIV positive, you know they're going to react different, and you know how young people are like. So they're not concerned so much, and they're not aware about the illness. So basically, that's what I was aware of. That if you do tell anybody who have no idea what HIV is, there's an impact of bullying. There's an impact of feeling discriminated against. So I think that's what I was aware of. I think it was very, very difficult because a lot of people that are HIV positive, finding love is always the difficult part, because if you watch the BBC interview I did, and I asked them the same question, I said, because you just don't know if the person is going to take you for you, or the person. Basically, you don't know if the person will see you beyond HIV, if that makes sense. And dating like in the black community, and don't forget, just because the person is nice and they all knowledgeable, they have a degree in anything, they can still discriminate you because they themselves don't know anything about HIV, and they themselves are also afraid that they're going to catch something. So that's what it was. It was understanding that if I'm going to be dating, I have to, not that I have to, I have to find a way to tell the person, because, I don't want the person to feel pressured or feel like, or make me feel different in a way, because after all, people with HIV are human beings. So I've worked with Youth Stop AIDS. So we went on tour last year, 2017, we went to speak at universities, mostly to like medical students who are our future doctors. Then I was doing community work as on behalf of Miss Congo UK, so I got to speak with other NGOs in the community. And not just that, I have also been working in like faith groups, for example, positive camps who focus on Christians living with HIV. As far my lowest point, I would say it was mostly relationship, as I said before. It was like finding someone that would love you for you. That was my lowest point. And also acceptance in terms of, because many of my friends didn't know that I was HIV positive. So finding that acceptance to people, or around people. And, but my highest point, even though many people think, oh yeah, because you won the beauty pageant, you know, you were able to have all this opportunity, but I don't think that was my highest point. My highest point, I would say, it was having my pastor there. He was always encouraging, like always, even though I would say he probably doesn't know much about HIV and AIDS, but he was always encouraging. He was always there spiritually, and prayer as well was very important to me as a person living with HIV. And also because, you know, the people that I was with that knew, they made me look like, they made me see that you can have a life just like anyone else. For example, I got my degree, I went to school, I'm doing other things as well, and it doesn't stop me. So it's keeping that in mind, and that's what is basically my highest point. I'm not saying that I don't face challenges, I still face challenges, but you know, that's basically it, yeah. In terms of HIV, no, not exactly. I didn't know many people that are activists at the time about HIV. However, I would say my family as well, because there are two in the African or Black community. Just education. You have to educate yourself. You have to know the difference between HIV and AIDS. And most importantly, I would say 3 things that I learned, because I was speaking last week, Saturday, on HIV and faith. And I was covering why faith is important to people living with HIV. And as I was there, one of the coordinators of Positive East, she spoke about sympathy, empathy, and compassion. She said sometimes with empathy it's like, oh yeah, people just like empathize, oh yeah, oh my God, you know, you're HIV positive. And other people, you know, they will sympathize, they actually try to be in your shoes, they'll actually be in your shoes, but at the same time they wouldn't do anything about it. So I think you have to have those 3 people in the Black community. We have to show empathy, we have to show sympathy, but we also have to be compassionate. I would say that we are all here as servants, because whenever you speak about servant, people associate with like kind of like slavery or oppression and things like that. But servants in terms of servitude, where we are serving one another. So that's basically the message I have, is you have to remember that your life is not just lived for yourself, it's lived for others. And we are here trying to work with one another despite our differences, despite our experiences as well, because I think experience is one of the factors that kind of differentiates us with other people, because we may be Congolese, I always say we may be Congolese, but we all have different experiences that change our perspective about life. But when you think of yourself as, like, I'm serving this person, that I'm giving them, not necessarily giving them, I'm showing them, I'm demonstrating, I'm helping, I'm doing what I can to support them in their needs, as well as my own, because we will also have our own needs, then I'm basically, I'm doing God's will. If that's why I say, maybe because I'm a Christian, I'm doing God's will.